y'all, my name is Serena and this is Serena's Art Adventures. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to share with you guys my review of a few of the different lines of Caron yarn available at Michael's. I personally bought all of these at an in-store location of Michael's. There's this Caron Smash Cakes. I love this colorway. We've got the Caron Macchiato Cakes and this Caron Simply Soft. This is a very soft yarn and I love the way that it shines when light is reflected upon it. This is a beautiful yarn. I did work up some swatches today so I can share with you guys what this yarn looks like when it is worked up. So I will show you a better top-down view of these and we'll talk a little bit about all of these different swatches. But I just want to give you a quick little view of them. So these are the swatches that we have, and they are all gorgeous yarns. I love Caron cakes, and honestly, I've always had a great experience with Caron cakes as far as softness and stitch definition. Now, I do want to preface that by saying I personally use Furls metal crochet hooks, and I have watched Elise Rose Crochet do some videos where she talks about the Furls crochet hook and the fact that it is technically one of the smoothest metal crochet hooks that they tested and probably on the market. I have noticed sometimes when I use applied yarn, such as this Smash Cakes is a applied yarn, and this Simply Soft is also applied yarn. Anytime I use applied yarn with a hook other than the Furls metal crochet hooks, sometimes I do have some issues with it snagging. So I'm just going to tell you about my experience crocheting with these. I can say no matter which hook I use, anytime I use a cake like the Macchiato Cakes, is a roving style yarn. So there's no plies for your yarn your hook to split the yarn. So in my opinion, this type of roving yarn is my friend if I don't have the best hook and I don't have my Furls crochet hook with me and I'm using a cheaper hook. I like to use this type of yarn with that because it doesn't have the tendency of splitting. I know we're all excited to see how those colors work up in the cake, but I quickly want to talk about the Caron Simply Soft yarn. Number one, it gets bonus points for this easy pull tab. Not a whole lot of yarn companies do that when it's wound up into a skein. So this skein of yarn deserves a bonus points for that. But the Caron Simply Soft is a 4-weight, medium weight yarn. It says that it needs 5mm knitting needles or a 5mm crochet hook. So for this sample, I did use a 5mm crochet hook. It is a medium 4-weight yarn and 100% acrylic. It comes with 315 yards per skein or 288 meters and 170 grams. The Caron Simply Soft is a little bit more affordable at about $5.99 per skein instead of the cakes that are like $12.99 each. This is probably not going to pill very easily. The wash instructions for this though is that it is machine wash and dryable. If you want to help eliminate some of that pilling, I would definitely say machine wash, lay flat to dry. That's just my personal opinion though. I mean, you can still dry it if you want to. Let me know if you run into any issues with that though, because I haven't personally yet had a chance to wash and dry this yarn myself. It does have very good stitch definition, and like I said, the shine that you get from there on top of the stitch definition definitely makes for one of my favorite solid color yarns. I didn't know what I was missing out on. I just recently started using this and I was very surprised that this yarn didn't want to split on me or anything else. I expected that when I was working with this yarn, so when that didn't happen, I was very pleased. It is a fast crocheting experience because it has very good stitch definition. I absolutely love these colors and the way that it shines on the light. This right here is a 4-weight plied yarn. You can see the twists in the yarn. This one was decent to work with. I have used this for this project right here where I just kind of made a gauge swatch for you guys, and then I'll also insert a little video of me working a little bit of tight stitches with a smaller crochet hook, like a 4mm crochet hook. I'm using that right now to make some amigurumi with this yarn, and it's actually working up a lot better than I thought it would. But I think one of the biggest differences is this Furls Crochet metal hook, because it's very smooth. We've got some double crochets at the bottom, followed by some single crochets. Those are some very tight stitches there. Half double crochets. So we got some V stitches and some treble crochets. And I mean, I can just tell when working with this yarn, but like the frogging on this yarn is just easy peasy, no problem at all. The Smash Cake is a 100% acrylic yarn. The colorway that I got is called Blackberry. It says that it's a weight 4 yarn and requires 5mm knitting needles or 5.5mm crochet hook. It is machine washable and dryable. We love a machine wash and dry. While working with the yarn, it is very soft and actually, surprisingly, a little bit plush as well. It glides easily over the hook without any snagging or splitting. It has great workability. I love the stitch definition. I will show you a swatch of this here in just a little bit where I show you the stitch definition. And it does maintain pretty good tension and consistency while crocheting, in my opinion. I think that the gauge swatch kept its shape nicely, even though I went through multiple different stitches. I did some double crochets, single crochets, half double crochets, treble crochets, as you will see when we go and look over the swatch, and it did maintain its width really well. I wasn't getting any fraying or pilling or tangling while working with this yarn. One of the great things about the Caron cakes is that it comes in cake form, and so once you like find the center and you start to get that center pull, as long as you don't move the yarn around a whole lot, it does maintain its shape really well in cake form. And if you can sit down and work through an entire cake, you don't get a whole lot of tangles in your skein of yarn. That's my experience when working with Caron cakes. So typically when I'm working up one of these cakes, I do try to finish it in one sitting if I absolutely can, and if I can't, I try to keep it pretty close to in one location so that it doesn't lose its shape, because once it loses its shape, it's more probable that you're going to get tangling in the yarn. If you use a little bit of a bigger crochet hook, you'll get some good drape with it, but with this being a thicker 4-weight yarn, you might need to do some blocking to get it to have more drape. But it's always a good idea, if you are looking for more drape, to go up in your hook size a little bit. I know for me, when I did the gauge swatch on this, even though it calls for a 5.5mm crochet hook, and it did help make the swatch a little bit more drapey than it otherwise would have been. This Caron cake can be purchased from Michaels for $12.99, and there's 432 yards or 227 grams in the cake. Okay, so here's our little swatch that I did on this Smash Cakes yarn. At first I wasn't so sure. I didn't love how it was working up on the double crochets on the bottom. The bottom 3 rows are double crochet. And then I started to work into the single crochets, and it does work like the color will work 2 to 3 stitches on a single crochet. So you can see here it did 3 purple, 2 blue, pretty much 2, almost 3 of the next purple, you know, but then you only get like 2 of this pink. Then I was kind of paying attention after that to the double crochets down here, and a lot of the double crochets you're getting like 1.5. You have 1.5 purple here, 1.5 blue here, 1 of these purples, 1 of this pink, 1 of this pink. So it's like, you know, maybe that isn't too terrible. And as you work it into a bigger project, it would probably look really nice. I wonder what kind of pooling you would get, what kind of pooling effect you would get, because I already have a project in mind for this yarn. And then here's the half double crochet rows, and you can see here that a lot of these are like 1 stitch for the half double crochets before it changes. Okay, and then we get into the V-stitch, and now you can see these double crochets a little bit better in the V-stitch, how pretty much you have enough to do 1 full crochet, if not 2. that kind of shows you how frequently the color changes happen. That's always my biggest question on these types of color changing yarns, is when the color changes are going to happen. And then here in the treble crochet, it's very interesting. You do have a couple that are fully that color, like this purple one here, but most of them are like half one color and half another color through the stitch, which I actually kind of decided that I liked that look. I'm used to working with yarns that have longer color changes than this. These are very short burst color changes, but once it kind of works up, it does have nice cohesive colors with some bright pops with these two pinkish colors, which I really do like. So I am kind of excited to see how this works up in my project and if there's very much color pooling happening. But you can see even here you have some color pooling where the colors are coming together very close to each other already. So that will probably end up happening in a larger project as well. But this is kind of what this swatch looks like. The Caron Macchiato Cake comes with 481 yards or 227 grams. It labels itself a 5 bulky weight yarn. It says that you should use 6mm knitting needles or a 6mm crochet hook. I ended up using a 6.5mm crochet hook when working up this swatch. And I definitely think that using a large crochet hook, a little larger than what's called for, is going to help lend to the drapiness. So just like with the smash cakes that we had just looked at, the macchiato cakes also is going to get a little bit drapier if you use a little bit larger of a hook. You don't want to go too large though, especially if you are making winter wearables. A 4-weight yarn is a fantastic yarn for winter wearables, and this nice soft macchiato cake with a little bit of a halo is going to give you a nice comfortable sweater material, in my opinion. This does say it's a bulky 5. I kind of tend to think it's closer to a 4, but with its roving style texture, it probably varies a little bit as you work through it from a 4 to a 5. The crochet experience with the macchiato cakes is absolutely lovely. Now this one is surprisingly soft. It's not quite as soft as the smash cake, but it does have a little bit of plushness to it. It's not quite as smooth though as the smash cakes, but still a very nice and enjoyable crochet experience. It has pretty good stitch definition, especially with the halo effect. You're really still able to see the stitches really well. This swatch also maintained its tension, and as I worked with different stitches, it still pretty well kept its same width, so that was really nice. I do believe that it is a nice yarn for a beginner, especially since it's not a plied yarn, so it's not going to split on you as much when you're working with it. It does seem like this yarn is pretty good with no tangling or anything like that. Again, a macchiato cake is really nice to work with. The Caron cakes in general, they are caked up in a way that's really easy to utilize them. So while these yarns come in at a little bit more money, I do tend to think that they're worth it. This specific colorway is called Blazing Sunset, and the colorway is just gorgeous with the yellows and oranges and reds. This yarn is not going to be machine wash and dryable like the other one, unfortunately, because of this halo texture that you get from the yarn. If you throw it in the wash, it is going to pill quite a bit. So one thing about this yarn is you are going to want to hand wash it and lay it flat to dry. It is 80% acrylic and 20% wool. Now I did big swatches on these so we could kind of see the color changes as they happen. This is more what I'm talking about when I say I'm used to longer color changes, right? Right here we have an entire row of orange. If it was worked in a double crochet, it would probably be one full row of this orange. This orange reminds me of like hot Cheetos colors. Anyway, then we have this reddish color. And then this yellow color here. You have single crochets on this yellow color. The second part of this yellow color is all single crochets. So these single crochets, I worked up like a whole row of about 20 single crochets here. But I like the color changes on this because it's mostly red with just like some pops of some brighter colors, but with that red still really prominently in there. So it really makes everything come together very nicely. I do kind of like the structure of this yarn better, the structure of this yarn compared to the structure of the other yarn. This is an acrylic roving style yarn, so it's going to change in thickness here and there, but it's not a plied yarn. Like, you don't see any plies in here at all, right? Just hairs, apparently. So this, I really like the construction of this one right here. And as far as like frogging this project, it frogs really easy, like no snags, no problem. Okay, so that's this little swatch. We're gonna do a frog test on this one here. And I mean, Caron Cakes, in my personal opinion, one of my favorite. Like, this frog's so easy, like no problem. I always love some Caron Cakes. They're very, very soft. You can see the plies in this one, like you couldn't see the plies in the other one. So I'm showing you this one because you can actually see the plies in this yarn compared to there's no plies in this other yarn. So if you kind of see them side by side, you have a plied yarn and a non-plied yarn. So this one has the twisted yarn together, and this is like a roving style. I always really love working with a roving style yarn. I've worked with Macchiato Cakes before. I've just never done an actual review on the yarn itself. As far as like a tug test, it is pretty strong. It is a thick yarn. It's a 5-weight yarn. This is said to be a 4-weight yarn, but like really, in my opinion, these are pretty close to the same weight. This is said to be a 4-weight yarn. This is said to be a 5-weight yarn. Like, those look pretty similar to me. I think they're both pretty much 4-weight yarns. The suggested hook size on this yarn, the Macchiato Cakes, is a 6mm, and the suggested hook size on this one, the Smash Cake, is a 5.5mm. So I did end up working this swatch in a 6.5mm and this swatch in a 6mm. I went up a 1/2 millimeter just to kind of get some airiness so we can kind of really see those stitches. These definitely have two completely different vibes. I really, really like both of them. This one is a little bit more colorful than I thought it was going to be, and this one is a little less colorful than I thought it was going to be, which is good. I like a little bit of like a neutral color palette with just some pops of color. So it's just interesting to see how different these two work up to be. I do have to say, I think I don't really have a favorite. I mean, I love them all, but they all have their own unique uses for sure. The Smash Cake did work up a little differently than I thought it would when I was looking at it in the cake. The color bursts in the Smash Cake are very short. The color bursts in the Macchiato Cakes are very long color bursts. I highly enjoy playing with yarn, and I've just always really had a good experience with the Caron Cakes. So I'm kind of addicted to them, and I know the Caron Anniversary Cakes are supposed to be coming out, I do believe on September 2nd when I looked it up online. The slice of anniversary cakes were available at Michael's when I went to Michael's and I was looking at yarn, and I had a desire to get them, but I only can have so much yarn with me since I am in a semi-truck. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna stick to 2. And I got these 2 different ones, and the idea just came to me that, you know, I've never worked with a Smash Cake before, and it's been a while since I've used the Macchiato Cake. And all of these are just very popular right now because they have a lot of new lines dropping and a lot of new colorways coming out. So I was like, maybe I should just do a yarn review for anybody thinking about purchasing it. And then I got a comment on one of my videos where I was sharing about my trip to Michael's where somebody said, oh, I'm not able to go in store to get them. And I'm like, you know, that might be the case for a lot of people. So we're gonna go ahead and do a yarn review for those that can't go and see the yarn themselves, so they can see it worked up, the colorway, and they can see just the ease of use of the yarn. I hope that you guys enjoyed my little B-roll that I took there. Now I am in a hotel room and my office chair broke, so for a little bit of the time I had to sit either in the chair or in the bed, and my husband wanted the chair, so I was happy to give it to him. However, the bed, it just ended up like a total yarn zone. So probably a good thing that I did that. I'll insert a clip because I was like, how did the bed get like this? It just was a total yarn area like halfway through the day. Anyway, I just want to say, if you made it this far into the video, I hope you liked the video. If you have any suggestions for me of other yarn you want me to try, or anything else that you would like me to do when I'm doing yarn reviews, please leave them in the comments. I do read your comments. I usually respond to the comments as well, but I do take everything you guys say because these videos overall are made for you guys. I love making them, but they are made for you guys, and I want to provide the most information for y'all. I really appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't mind hitting the like and subscribe button, hitting the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post a video, and all of those fun things, I would highly appreciate it. Again, thank you all so much for joining me, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.